So before I start this video, I wanted to address some things that I wanted to say before I get into this video, before I rant about it. If you like this book, that is great. Good on you. I'm so happy that you liked this book. I'm glad your money was spent well on this book. However, I personally have opinions about this book that maybe you might not agree about, or that you don't really care about, or you find that you enjoyed this book and that I'm wrong. That's perfectly fine. That's your opinion. I'm honestly just giving my opinion for this book and what I thought, and these are only my opinions. You don't have to take them. If you want to read this book after watching this video, go right ahead. I congratulate you. But I wanted to rant about this book, so that's why I made this video. The second thing I wanted to talk about is this idea of romanticizing mafia and romanticizing gangs and stuff, especially when it comes to romance. And I'm going to say this point blank up front. I do not want to be a part of the mafia. I do not want to be in this kind of world. I hate this. I hate it in real life. However, in fiction, it is fictional. All of these things happening, yes, they correlate with real life, but that shows you like, oh, this is so wrong. This is happening. This is wrong. It is happening in our real world. We need to fix it. Writing about it isn't going to change, oh, it's going to make it romanticized. I think it's not romanticization when I can, in my mind, know that it is fiction and that it is wrong and that it happens in reality, and that doesn't make it right. I know that. And when it comes to romanticizing mafia, you have to realize that these books are not meant for children. These are meant for adults who understand that this stuff that happens in this book is wrong. It's wrong. And people who read this know that. And I had comments coming at me saying I'm romanticizing this, and I wanted to say that I do not want to be a part of the mafia. I do not want to be a part of the gang in real life. How am I romanticizing it? How am I fantasizing about this life? I do not want this to happen to me. Now, am I going to read about it? Yes, but it's going to stay in the book. I'm not trying to bring it into my reality and stuff. So that's just what I wanted to say before we get on to this video. So I hope y'all enjoy.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about 365 Days by Blanka Lipinska. And as you can see, I have a ton of things to talk about. I hated the book. So let's get into it. So we all know the 365 Days, the movie, and I posted a TikTok video about this. I'll insert it here.
Saw this at work. Don't buy. Do not buy. F it. Time to compare to the movie.
And I was like, oh, should I buy it and compare it to the movie? Why? Why did I decide to do this? I regret it. I don't know why I spent my money on this. And here's why. So, three things that I'm going to be, that's four. Three things I'm going to be talking today is the plot, the characters, and the problems that I had with this book. And as you can see, I tabbed a whole bunch, and kind of to explain the tabs. So I have orange is, as we know, the spicy scenes. Purple is dumb bitch moments for Massimo. Pink is every time he says baby girl. So like, as you can see, this is a ton of things. All the blue is mentions of alcohol. Green is things I didn't like. And I think yellow is, okay, green is questionable Laura moments, and so is yellow. But I like went through almost a whole thing of sticky tabs for this. I'm gonna be giving the book away, so I'm okay with it a little bit, but the fact that like I tabbed this much for a book and I've never tabbed this much really says something. So let's get into the plot. So the plot of the book, we've seen it in the movie, is also full spoiler warning. If you're watching this, you probably are either gonna read it, even though I'm going to spoil everything for you, or you're probably never going to read it. But so we know the plot of 365 Days, and it follows pretty close. She goes on vacation with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend doesn't like put enough effort into her, so she breaks up with him, runs away, and Massimo comes, sweeps her up, takes her to his little like freaking palace, and basically that. The only differences in the book than in the movie are like problems that I'll talk about, which I'm glad, but the plot itself was more, it felt more developed in the movies, because the plot in the book, it felt there was this more, because you had the inner dialogue, so it's more of this compare and contrast, because you had both of their perspective. Well, you only had her perspective majority of the time, and then there were some of Massimo's. I think the first chapter was Massimo's perspective, and then never again, which is like, okay, I can see. But there's also a plot in the book. When they go to the wedding, her ex-boyfriend is there, and they dance together, and then Massimo watches. And I did not get the plot points of the boyfriend being there, the ex-boyfriend, and she apparently was a drug addict, and it was like put in there as like a problem point, and then nothing happened out of it. Like nothing. I guess they had sex. That's what we got out of that. And it's like, why put that in there? Like, it just felt so, like, yes, it gave some background, and I mean, there are 2 other books, but I'm just saying, like, it was just like, what? It was like, why is this even here? And it's not even in the movie, so that's why I felt like the movie flowed better than this actual book. The idea of, like, she kept saying, Massimo kept saying, I'm gonna wait for you and stuff like this, and then she's always like, oh, I don't want to, but I must, I guess. And like, she caves really fast. In the movie, she kind of plays him and inadvertently plays herself as well, versus in the book, she kind of immediately almost just caves and is like, okay, I guess I have to. And she just believes him. She doesn't question him. She's like, oh, he's gonna kill my family. He's going to do this, so I have to. And it's like, I'm sorry, bitch, I would be questioning it. It's like, how many times is he gonna threaten your family and do nothing to prove it before you like think like, oh, maybe I could get away with some stuff? Because we can tell this man is just horny. Like, this man is just horny as hell. And it just was, the plot made 0 sense. Like, halfway through the book, it was different than the movie, and that goes into some of the key problem points. But let's get on to the character analysis for this. So, the characters. Main characters, Massimo and Laura, and then there's side characters. We don't really know the side characters except Domenico. And he is my favorite character out of the whole thing, because he's that stable character who doesn't really change, but is that like the funny best friend who the girl always hangs out with, and like is left with the funny best friend, and he just seems like a better character than the actual main love interest. Massimo is a little bitch. He literally just gets angry whenever he doesn't get what he wants, and he storms off, or he threatens. Or, I mean, I guess that's part of being the mafia. You can be that kind of, being the Don that he is, he can do that. But it just, there was no change in his personality. And that's why I didn't enjoy the book, is because you saw no character development. And even with Laura, there was no character development. And I feel like in the first book, there should be at least some character development. But it literally felt like their whole arc was just them agreeing to be together, and like the relationship was their character arc, not actually like them changing and then becoming better people. Like, Massimo still is an asshole at the end of the at the end of the books. He's still as much as an asshole as he was at the beginning. He stayed stagnant the whole time. And it's like, you want a main love interest that changes for the main character, and this doesn't happen. He is still very controlling. He's still very possessive. I'm gonna pause and wait till I can rant about it in the problems with this book. But there's not many characters, and I think that also kind of not devalues, but just makes it feel weird, because you only have her and Massimo going to do stuff together and going out to the club, and I mean there's like side characters that will mention and stuff, and they have like small interactions, but it's just them two the majority of the book. And the fact that their relationship doesn't progress either, or their characters don't have an arc, just makes it seem like, why was this book written? Like, what? Like, yes, apparently I heard comments saying it was like a Wattpad book or something. It was a fan fiction book, and then she made it into an actual book, and so that's probably why. But it just was unrealistic in the sense that, like, yes, I know mafia romances aren't that very realistic, but it felt like a fan fiction, and it read like a fan fiction where it's like, oh, this is funny, like this is something you read for fun to make fun of, and that's the only reason why I read this. So let's get into all the problems with this book. So I'm actually gonna finish this video the next day because I had family come over while I was filming, so we're gonna start with the problems. So the main problems for me were with the character development and then a lot of the wording that was used. So Massimo used baby girl 30 times in this book, 30 times, and we didn't even get the iconic "Are you lost, baby girl?" scene at all. And I was like, this is why the movie is better. And I also, with Laura, what she says when she calls Massimo, she doesn't say Massimo, she calls him the man in black. And I'm just like, girl, as like when I listen and read authors and how they describe like nicknames for characters for significant others, it usually has something to do with like what they're looking like, or like the dark one, but like, or like it's a short-named, a nickname that makes sense. The man in black doesn't make sense. Yes, he does wear full black a lot, but she still calls him the man in black even towards the end. And sometimes when he's not even wearing black, when he's wearing like white or something, she'll say the man in black. And I'm like, bitch, this isn't an action movie. This is not Men in Black 2018 movie. No, this is a mafia smutty romance. Hold on a second. Ranting makes me thirsty. Also, look at this mug. So, the nicknames for each other just made me really annoyed. However, that doesn't mean that you can't have nicknames for a character, but it's just like when they're used so repetitively, it gets to the point where it's just like, are you, like, you seriously can't come up with another name to call him? Like, it gets to the point where I'm just like, do I really want to keep reading this book? Why am I keep reading this book? Why can't she come up with a better nickname to call him besides the man in black? Laura, explain it to me. My next issue with this book. Massimo likes to have this idea of consent. And he is always, it's that common trope where it's like, I'm not going to come to you until you come to me kind of trope, except he forces Laura to come to him anyways, even though he says, I'm going to wait for you. And one of this key issues that I have with Massimo that I feel like wasn't even addressed in the book was the fact that he microchipped her. Sorry, I'm standing up because I am furious at this. He fucking microchipped her. He implanted her with a microchip so he could follow her around. Now, in any other book, I think it would be okay if they explained it and they actually dealt with the problem. In this book, they do not. This furthers the problem when we all know the iconic boat scene, and in that boat scene, they don't use protection. And Massimo tells her it's okay, and then he reveals that he put something in her arm. What he tells her he put in her arm? Birth control. He tells her he put birth control, and then later in the book it's revealed, no, he didn't put birth control, he put a microchip. But he told her he put birth control into her so that he could get her pregnant. Sir, what? What? And then she gets pregnant. And literally, like in the book, she literally says, if I ever got pregnant because of you, I would leave you. But then in the end of the book, she stays with him and they're getting married, and you're like, what was the whole point of even saying? Like, yes, characters change and stuff, but you saw no real change. And she just decided, oh, maybe I will stay with him and maybe I love him, but he microchipped you? I'm sorry, he didn't explain it either. He's this possessive man who microchipped her and R-worded her, because that is an R word. It is R. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to trigger anybody, but he literally R'd her by saying, lying to her, saying he implanted her with birth control when he knew he did not, and then proceeded to have unprotected sex with her. Sorry, I'm getting so heated by this. It really infuriated me, and that's why I liked the movie better, because this was not in the movie. Not in the movie at all. Now, that is my ranting about Massimo and consent. Now, another problem I had with this book is the amount of times they mentioned alcohol. Not to say that mentioning alcohol is bad or drinking alcohol is bad. It's to the point where, like I said earlier, it becomes repetitive, where it's like every single chapter she mentions how she's drinking alcohol. And you're like, why do I need this information? Why does this keep popping up? It's a recurring thing to happen. It's her talking about how much she loves champagne or she loves this or that. And Massimo giving her alcohol, pumping alcohol into her. Like, I enjoy my alcohol myself too. But this, like, it was to the point where I was just, like I said with the sex scenes, like I said with baby girl, like it was so infuriating and annoying and repetitive to the point where I would see it, tab it, and move on. I wouldn't even acknowledge it anymore. And then the very questionable ideas of Mafia books, I understand. Mafia getting taken away. 365 days she has to fall in love with him. She falls in love with him in like less than a month. Less than 2 months. Yeah. She falls in love with him so fast. And I feel like what would have made the book better is if it was longer. If the book was longer and we saw this more drawn out, the tension between her, because in the book she has a lot of I don't want him but I do kind of think, her sexual attraction to him, that's her main like thing, like, oh, I like him and I don't, and I need to clean my glasses real quick, hold on. In the book she says this a lot of like, oh, I want him but I don't want him kind of thing, that like push and pull, but you don't see it actually play out. You get it in the inner monologue, but I wish we saw that like tension, where more of that tension drawn out over a longer period of time. We did not get that in this book. Sorry, I'm leaning on my window. And it was so annoying. And I was just like, there needs to be more tension, especially in these Mafia books. There is more. So we all know the infamous shower scene. And this is one of the quotes that really irked me. That's when it struck me. There's nothing to fight, nothing to run away from. There's nothing for me to go back to in Warsaw. I wasn't losing anything because everything I had was now gone. The only thing I could do was let this adventure unfold. It's time to accept your situation, Laura. I thought, standing up. She had friends in Warsaw. She literally had friends in Warsaw, and then she's saying, I have nothing left in Warsaw, and that's all because of her boyfriend. Like, she has nothing but her boyfriend in Warsaw. Her parents are there. Her friends are there. Her job is there. Well, I guess she's not really, she doesn't have a job anymore, but literally, like, she makes this, she is so, she doesn't have any, like, not self-preservation, but she doesn't have this, like, idea of, like, oh, there is more for me than just a guy. And it just irked me. It irked me so much. Thank you for listening to me rant about the problems of this book. I have to wrap up my thoughts about this book. I read it in a day, and I sped run it because I didn't particularly enjoy it. It's a fast read. It's pretty short too, as you can see, and there's 3 books. Also, fun fact, the author is on the second cover, like the half. Laura, the author, definitely self-insert. which I congratulate her. I would self-insert into any book I write too. But I gave this a 1 out of 5 stars because of all the problems I had with it. And I wanted to talk about this idea of the translation from Polish to English. And I recognize that I am not reading this in its native language. I am not reading it the way the author intended. Like, there are some nuances and wording and stuff that is different from when it was translated from Polish into English. And I realized that not all of those nuances were transferred over into English for those who speak English as their native language or read it in English. And I understand that. I totally understand that when translating, it's more of a word for word than a meaning for meaning. And what I mean by that, it's like, it's the exact translation of each word, but it's not put in a meaningful way. And I understand that. And there are some words in this book that, if you watch my reviews, I'll link them down below, my reviews on them for TikTok, which are more short than this video. But I want to say I recognize that I am not reading this in its native language, in its intended language. So I wanted to say that before I end the video. And thank you guys for watching. I hopefully am going to start uploading bi-weekly, so 2 times a month. I hope my next video, I put it on my Instagram, a poll on what I should do next for my next video. So we'll see what that ends up to, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!